Welcome to the Wing Space podcast, a place to take up space, a space for you to settle in, sit back, relax, and focus a little bit on health, wellness, faith, family, and this crazy thing called life.
This podcast is not a replacement for mental health treatment or professional health care. In case of crisis or emergency, please contact your local healthcare provider or dial 911.
Hey there, and welcome to the Wing Space podcast. In today's episode, we're going to talk about the What Are You Thinking team and what your role is on that team. But first, a quick message about some of our upcoming services.
Prepare and Enrich is a service that we'll be offering to premarital couples. It is a strength-based program that utilizes assessment portion and then subsequent sessions to look at that assessment and discuss what are your strengths, what are the areas of growth, what are conversations that you'd like to have as you are leading up to and preparing for marriage. One of the nice things about Prepare and Enrich is that it covers not only a wide variety of areas, but it can be utilized with couples that are in different stages of life as well. So maybe this is your first marriage. Maybe it is a blending of families that come into play when you are preparing for this. So the idea is that we can support you in that process and support you in having conversations with your partner and planning ahead for success.
And if someone is interested in seeking out this service for themselves and their partner, how could they go about inquiring or scheduling an appointment?
Contact us at Hope and Healing. You can go to the website and send us your information and we'll get back with you, or you can give us a call and we'll get you scheduled. There's more than one option when it comes to utilizing this program. This is a set group of sessions. So you will either be choosing to engage in 4 sessions or 8 sessions, depending on what your needs are, what your interests are, and what works for you. The assessment is part of both of those, the skill building, the recognizing our growth areas and working on those are included in both of those sets. So you will get that experience, but just the timing of it might look different depending on your needs.
Yes, so you can give us a call at 301-690-8404, extension 0. If you get the voicemail, make sure that you leave us one so that we can give you a call back within 24 hours. You can also visit our website, like Kristen mentioned, at hopehealingtherapy.com.
Welcome back to the Wing Space podcast, a place to take up space. I am diving into our February content on relationships and communication. If you've already listened to the episode prior to this, you have heard me talk about different kinds of relationships that we have and why those relationships are important. Now, I was going to talk about effective and positive communication skills next, but I decided that instead of starting with the positives that I'm sure all of us think that we do, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the errors that we make in our thinking. Now, I want you to continue listening because many of you might be thinking, errors in my thinking? I don't make errors in my thinking. Well, I'm sorry to bust your bubble. All of us have errors in our thinking and what cognitive processing therapy calls patterns of problematic thinking. We all have them. So before we talk about the effective communication skills and everyone listens to it and says, oh yeah, I know, I do that, I'm good, I'm gonna let you in on a few errors that you might be leaning towards so that you can be aware of where your errors in your thinking occur. And then when we dive into the effective and positive communication skills, you will know where you tend to fall so that you can adjust your communication skills based on where you fall. So I'm using a guide today called the What Are You Thinking team, and this was created for the purposes of the trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy modules that we use. So it's written for children to understand, but hopefully it'll be clear enough that we can all kind of get it. So the first person on the What Are You Thinking team is Shoulda Sharonda. These are people who tend to talk about should statements, always talking about things that she, Sharonda, should do, must do, even if no one is telling her to do them. So for instance, maybe Shoulda Sharonda is hanging out with a friend and she's thinking, I should be studying. And no matter what she does, she's going to feel guilty and not present in that interaction with her friends because she is shoulding on herself. I should be studying. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. And on the other side of that, this Shoulda Sharonda also thinks a lot about what other people should be doing. And if other people don't do what Shoulda Sharonda thinks, then she can get angry and frustrated. So I want you to think, are you a person who tends to consider I should be doing this or I should be doing that? Or even putting that mindset on other people. This person should be doing this or should be doing that. Shoulda Sharonda, first team member. The next one is the drama queen gene. Now, this drama queen gene is the person who catastrophizes everything, blows everything out of proportion. Even if something really small happens, just a minor inconvenience, drama queen gene acts like it's the end of the world. People are always telling drama queen gene that she's making too big of a deal out of things. For instance, one time she gets into an argument with a friend because the friend couldn't do whatever it was that she wanted her to do. Huge deal turns into, I hate you and I don't want to be your friend anymore. Blows things out of proportion. Minor inconveniences turn into major catastrophes. Are you a drama queen gene? Next team member, Psych Out Sam. Psych Out Sam tends to psych himself out by expecting the worst. He is a mind reader. He is a fortune teller. And both in his mind reading and in his fortune telling, he makes mistakes. He usually thinks maybe that people don't like him or they're out to get him or there's some negative way that someone's trying to interact with him, even when there's not any evidence to show that that's actually happening. He might decide that a friend is angry at him because the friend didn't text him back in the time that he thought, or maybe a friend canceled plans and then automatically Psych Out Sam just assumes that this friend doesn't like him anymore. And because Psych Out Sam is mind reading and fortune telling and can see into the future, he tends to think that things are going to turn out bad even from the start. So choosing not to do things, choosing not to engage in activities or conversations or whatever, because he knows, right? He knows that it's going to turn out bad. Are you a mind reader? Are you Psych Out Sam? Next team member, Bad Mouth Brandy. So Bad Mouth Brandy is the person who labels everything, tends to call people names, even herself. So imagine all of the names that are out there that people can use to call each other out, right? Such a jerk, loser, whatever, fill in the blank. One of the things I want to suggest to you about these team members and these errors in thinking is that these can be things that we aren't necessarily saying out loud, but that we are thinking in our heads. So for instance, maybe these bad names that Badmouth Brandy is saying, she's not saying to her friends, she is saying them in her head. Emo Emily. Emo Emily is the emotional reasoning person. Emo Emily lets her feelings control everything she does. I feel upset, things must be bad. I feel scared, there must be something bad going to happen. Assuming based on the way that we feel. And unfortunately, sometimes our emotions lead us in the wrong direction. And we have to take not only the physical emotion that we're feeling, but we also have to kind of take the context of our situation so that we're not making decisions solely based on the way that we feel. All right, couple more team members. All or Nothing Alan. all or nothing Alan, he is the black and white, right or wrong guy. There's no room in the middle. There's no gray. So if I don't ace a test, I've failed a test. This is an example that I've used with folks who are trying to start new habits. I want to walk for 30 minutes every day. Well, today I might only have 25 minutes, or maybe I only have 10 minutes. So I don't walk at all or nothing. And giving ourselves permission to say, I might not be able to walk for 30 minutes, but I can walk for 10 or 15, and that's good enough. So all or nothing Alan, it's all or nothing, black and white, right or wrong, no shades of gray. Blaming Blake. He is the person who blames somebody for everything. Sometimes it's himself, sometimes it's other people. But because he's so busy blaming other people, he doesn't really deal with the problem at hand. Sometimes it's not even his fault or somebody else's fault. It's just what tends to happen. And so he gets distracted by his blaming and worrying about where he can place the blame, and then isn't able to focus on the problem. Are you a blaming Blake? Are you too worried about blaming other people and pointing fingers and naming names to really focus on the issue? Over and over, Oliver. This is the guy that overgeneralizes everything. When something bad happens, Oliver just assumes that it's going to happen over and over and over again. One bad thing happens and there's an assumption that it's just going to continue to happen. Or that we say, well, this always happens, when maybe it's only happened once, but yet we've considered it as something that happens over and over again. Negative Nate. This is the guy that just disqualifies the positive. There is no positive. He only notices the bad stuff that happens to him. He only thinks the worst of himself and other people. Even if something good does happen, he just kind of ignores it and finds a way to make it negative. I'm sure we've all known, maybe even fallen into the trap of Negative Nate. Last guy on the team is not a big deal, Norman. Not a big deal, Norman minimizes everything. He plays things off that it's just not a big deal. Don't worry about it. It doesn't matter. Kind of just doesn't care, maybe. And sometimes what ends up happening is that the focus is shifted because there's no focus on what's actually happening because the reality of that is minimized. So as we dive into a couple of episodes about communication, different kinds of relationships and ways to engage in those relationships, I want you to think about, are you an all or nothing thinker? The all or nothing Alan? Are you the personalization person who blames everyone just like this blaming Blake? Are you an overgeneralizer, over and over Oliver? Do you disqualify the positive like Negative Nate? Do you minimize things like not a big deal Norman? Are you a should do something kind of person like Shoulda Sharonda? Do you catastrophize like drama queen Jean? Do you mind read like psych out Sam? Labeling like badmouth Brandy? Or emotional reasoning like Emily? Here's the other thing to think about. Just like on a team, sometimes the offense plays defense and sometimes the defense plays offense, and sometimes the goalie comes out of the cage and goes and plays another position. Sometimes these errors in our thinking shift a little. So we can have a little bit of all of these in the way that we think, which impacts the way that we interact with others and the way we interact with ourselves. So as we go into these next few episodes, I just want you to consider, where are some of the errors that you might be making in your thinking, and how might you be able to use that awareness to make a few changes? And we are going to talk about effective and positive communication skills with these errors in mind. I would love to hear what you think about this, as well as other topics you might consider for our podcast. You can reach me via email, jennifer@hopehealingtherapy.com. You can send us a DM. We're always looking for ideas that you might consider for the podcast, and we're looking forward to communicating with you about other tips and tricks about relationships and communication. Thanks so much for listening, and have a great day.